Hey everybody, it's me, Bryson Booker. I have another review just for you and you and you and you and you. Well, particularly all the sound engineers out there, like myself, and musicians, podcasters. This one is dedicated just for you. Right here, I have the Behringer Xenyx series 802 premium 8 channel. No, I'm sorry. My bad. Let me start over. Premium 8 input plus 2 bus mixer from Behringer. This was my first audio mixer. First one that I actually own. I don't use this much for sound engineering anymore. I use the Crate CPA 8P mixer, which I've done a review on. It's on YouTube. Check it out when you get a chance. The only Crate mixer review on YouTube right now. Seriously. And I also use a Mackie SR32 at my church when I do sound engineering. But as far as one of my first pieces of equipment, this is it. And well, here it is. It's very light, and it has premium British EQs and a preamp for a Xenyx preamp for the microphones. Two microphone inputs. Let's see, two stereo inputs. Um, well, we'll get into detail in a sec. Here's the instruction manual. It's kind of crunched up because it was in my sound bag. You know, that happens. But basically, Behringer combined all of the models. There's a Xenyx 502, 802, 1002, and 1202 of these mixers. Yes, they are still in production. My particular model is, I think, from around 2009, but I picked it up in 2013. Um, they basically stuffed all the models into one book because they're basically the same series, same functions. Although some mixers, like the 1202, obviously have more inputs, more flexibility, more stereo channels. You get the idea. Mine is kind of an old model, like I said, because Behringer changed their logo. They changed their whole perspective of things in the whole Behringer world. Once again, this series is still around, but with the new Behringer logo. So when I saw the old Behringer logo that is no longer being used, that told me right there that this is pretty much an old model that they picked up and stuffed in a box. But the new models have the new Behringer logo. So let's take an in-depth look at this mixer. So first here we have two microphone inputs. These are for your microphones or instruments or things like that. So you can have an XLR mic or a quarter-inch mic. And then you have your gain knob. The next two channels are line ins, otherwise known as stereo channels. Or you can use one input as a mono channel for, let's say, acoustic guitar and stuff. But the mono channels really don't work that well on this mixer. So what I would advise you to do is use the stereo channels. And just to let you know right now, I'm pretty much going to give you an unbiased review of this item because I used it for a couple of gigs, and well, you'll hear my opinion in a minute. It's a pretty good mixer, but there's some flaws to it. Up here you have stereo aux returns. So I'm guessing I kind of never really played with the stereo aux returns, but I think stereo aux means you can either send it to some other kind of studio monitors or maybe return effects to it. I'm not really sure about that one. Oh, the effects send you can do that. Stereo channels, I'm not really sure what they do, but the effects send you can send effects to the mixer. The headphones out, you can obviously go to some headphones, listen to it. Control room out, you can, it's kind of like a monitor output. You can have maybe your studio monitors or your headphones or, things like that. And those are in stereo too. So they go there. And right next to that is the main out. So you can go to your amplifier, to your loudspeakers, or once again, studio monitors, whatever you want to do. Right here is your CD tape inputs, left and right stereo, your phantom power switch, your aux return volume. So I'm guessing that aux stereo aux return is you can send an external device to the mixer and then control it from the aux return. You can send your CD tape input, whatever you put in there, music, MP3, DVD, wherever. You can send it to your headphones or the control room out, or you can send it to the main mix, maybe your studio monitors, things like that. There's your headphones and control room out, volume knob, main mix volume knob, indicator lights, green, yellow, and red. Red means clipping, of course. And then your volume, no, not volume controls, tone controls are British EQs. You have high at the top, mids, and lows. Your effects, amount of effects, the effects control knob, the pan control from panning to left and right in the stereo thing. And then your level for that channel. There are 6 channels on this mixer, but there's 8 inputs. And it's also pretty light too. It's very, very light. You got Behringer on the side. It's a pretty good sounding mixer. The British EQs, well, it gives it a nice warm sound. When you have a microphone hooked up to it, it's a nice warm. It's not all hard. It's just nice and warm. So that does do a little help, in vocals. Um, Places where I would advise applications. Places where I would advise you and advise you not to use this mixer at. So let's start with the good things you can use this thing for. Podcasting. It's great at podcasting. It's probably just you and maybe another buddy of yours, and then maybe a music channel on here in the stereo inputs. It does well at that. It's good for nice small things, nice podcasting things. The 502 is also great for podcasting or broadcasts. Anything. They pretty much advertise this mixer as kind of like a podcast mixer, but it can be used for other things. Other applications, I would say you could use it at school. If you have, like, schools, elementary schools, junior high schools, applications that don't require that many inputs to function well. I mean, when doing talent shows, plays, things like that, this mixer you can use that for. It's a nice small compact mixer that you can fit in a cabinet where the amplifier for the speakers are, or someplace where the students won't find it. It's nice, small. It won't be a big distraction. It's great for that. Two-man acoustic trio. Maybe you got you and a buddy can plug into inputs 1 and 2, and then you can have a backing track on the stereo inputs. It's great for that. Nice compact. You can put it right in your book bag and just carry it to the next gig. And, well, the things that I would not advise you to use this mixer for is the applications where I have used this mixer. And that has been medium applications. Medium-sized applications where there's going to be multiple microphones, multiple instruments going into this one mixer. Cannot do it. And I know firsthand, using this as a live sound mixer, it sounded great. The sound, it was kicking with the warm, nice EQs that you can only get from an analog board. It sounded great. But as far as being flexible, it was kind of cumbersome because, I mean, I had 2 mics on these channels, 2 more mics on these, and you really can't do that because you need to have individual control over the mics. But realize, this is when I was early in sound engineering. Now I know not to do that. But like when I was first starting, sounded like a concert from the late 60s. That's literally how it sounded, guys. I know not to do that now, but when I first started, 4 microphones were running from these 2 inputs. Plus, there was a keyboardist who wanted to go in here, another microphone that went into the other stereo channel, and the mixer, it's just like the mixer can't handle it, especially on inputs 5 and 6 when they're not really meant to be microphone channels. Inputs 3, 4, 5, 6 were not meant to be microphone channels. They're pretty much meant for music and things that of the stereo type, stereo plugs, they go right in there. They're not really meant for uh, microphones or instruments because you're not going to get that big of a volume in them, only if your instrument is in stereo. Like a keyboard could probably go well in this mixer. It'll probably sound great. But a single thing working from one mono input on channel 3, 4, 5, 6, it won't work. To make a long story short, the gig went okay, but when the mixer, when I got done using the mixer, it was hot to the bone. Hot. It gets hot. So it can't handle a lot of inputs. So my recommendation, if you're going to buy this mixer, don't expect to be using it at a club with a whole bunch of band members. That will not work. This was a mixer designed for small format events or podcasting, which they advertised it as. I'm telling you, they advertised this as a podcasting mixer, along with the 502 and the 1002. But as far as medium sound reinforcement, I would not recommend it. I would recommend it for maybe a trio of people. They'll sound great through this system, but as far as running multiple microphones and drums, and no, you can't do it. Although, however, I can run monitors from this board. I can send a signal out from my CPA mixer into this one, and then this can go out to some monitors. So I got like a little monitor mixer. It's good for that because you're only taking up one input over here. So it's good for that. But it's really good for what it is. I'm not downing it. I'm just saying, watch your applications with this mixer because you know, that's how people like Behringer try to get you. Another thing is there's kind of another flaw here. Do not leave this in the cold. Now, it hasn't happened to me, but it has happened to another guy that I see on YouTube who has owned this mixer. He left it out in the cold, and the buttons and functions did not work properly. And that's obviously a big mess when you're trying to get it to work for a gig. And I've been there. It's horrible. One more thing I want to mention, and I'm almost done. This is the last thing I'm going to mention. Just a note for this mixer. If you're running the stereo channels, if you want to use the mic channels, if these two buttons right here are pushed in, there won't be any microphone coming through the system. I don't know why this is, but when I press that down, then the microphone comes through the channel. If both of them are down, the microphone comes through. But if they're like that, then you can't get any microphone. I don't know why. But that's kind of a flaw. Maybe since this one was the oldest one, that's why there's a flaw on it. But it's a really good mixer. It sounds great. It sounds really great. I mean, if I used it on this review while I was reviewing it, you would probably hear it. It sounds pretty good. But there's really no way to do that because I don't know how. So this is the Behringer Xenyx 802 mixer by obviously Behringer, and go pick it up. It's a pretty nice mixer.